Welcome back to the HTML5 Beginners course, Lesson 2, the HTML document. In this lesson, we'll cover HTML comments, what are HTML elements, how to set up the HTML document, we'll create our first web page with HTML, we'll look at how to use Live Server, and we'll be introducing Chrome Developer Tools. We'll start with HTML comments, and I find that comments are a very useful place to start because as you go along and learn the code, you can take notes right inside your file if you're using HTML comments. They also allow us to communicate and document for other developers, as I said, to keep notes, or we can ignore a line of code we may not want to delete at this time with comments. We write a comment with an opening tag and our comment in the middle followed by a closing tag. And we can comment out our code by wrapping it inside a comment. So let's take a look at HTML comments in Visual Studio Code. So to start writing our HTML code, we first need to create a file. We do this by clicking on the new file icon here. It's a page with a plus icon. And create a new file. We'll name it index.html. Now let's take a look at comments. We'll open our comment with an exclamation mark and 2 dashes. And then inside of it, we can put this is a HTML comment. And that gives us a comment. Now we can put any information in here we like. Now let's look at creating our first HTML element. HTML is made up of a series of elements that tell the browser what information to display on the page. And they're made up of a very set pattern. This includes an opening tag, the content we want to display, and a closing tag. Now there are some exceptions to this rule, as there are self-closing tags and tags that do not require any content. And when we come across those, I'll make sure and mention them. But they are the exception, not the rule. Now, let's go to Visual Studio Code and take a look at creating an HTML element. So to create our first element, let's look at the paragraph tag, which is an opening tag with a P and a closing tag with a P. And we can say this is a HTML element. And now we have it. But if we tried to display this in our browser, nothing would happen. And that's because we haven't created an HTML document yet and told the browser that this file is an HTML file. So for now, let's learn how to comment out this element. Comment out the element. We'll simply go to the beginning of it. And we'll open up a new comment tag and close the comment tag surrounding it. And now the browser will ignore this line of code. So let's talk about the HTML document. To begin writing HTML code that our browser can understand, we need to understand the basic structure of an HTML document. The HTML document starts out with declaring to the file and the browser that our file is an HTML document. We do this with the doctype declaration. Then we need to create a root element that contains both the information that will be displayed and the information that is just that information for the browser. Inside of our root element, we create a head. The head contains information that is not visible in the browser itself, but is information that is useful to search engines, or we can also tell our browser what the title of our page is to be displayed in the browser's title tag with the title tag. Then we need a body, and the body contains what is visible on our HTML web page in the browser. So let's go take a look in Visual Studio Code. So let's create our first HTML web page. And we do that by first telling file in the browser that our file is an HTML document. And we do that with an opening tag, an exclamation mark, capital letters doc type, followed by lowercase letters HTML, and a closing tag. Then we'll create our root element, which is an opening tag of HTML, followed by a closing tag of HTML. And then inside of that, we'll create our head document. And in the head, we'll do a title. And we'll say, my first web page. Now that we've got our head set up, we'll create our body with the body tag. And inside there, we'll use the paragraph that we're already familiar with and say, hello world. Now, let's take a look at our first web page in the browser by saving it and right-clicking on it with Open with Live Server. And now in the browser, we see the web page we just created. If we look at the title tab, there's our title, My First Web Page. And in the browser itself, there's our content, Hello World, that we wrote. Now, I want to introduce you to Chrome Developer Tool, which is a way for us to inspect our code. So go to the menu at the top and go down to More Tools and Developer Tools. And a console will open that shows us our code as we've written it, and we can inspect each element that we've written on the page. In the next lesson, we'll take a look at typography and displaying text in our HTML page.